Okay, so I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We just recently restarted this program, and what I'm doing is I'm gradually making my way through the Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha, where today what I'm going to do is guide you guys in a meditation session. Then I'm going to teach you the moral conduct section of the Eightfold Path, which is the next part of the Eightfold Path, because last week I taught the wisdom section. So welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. If you guys would like to meditate with me, I do some chanting on the way into meditation, and you're welcome to join along in the chants if you like. They're over on a laminated sheet on the cabinet over there. It's important to know that if you do the chanting, it's not a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. Today, we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, chanting was used as a way to commit the teachings to memory. It was a learning tool, as a learning device. So I'm going to start with the chanting, then I'll give you some guidance in the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand some of the teachings of the Buddha based on the Eightfold Path. So make yourself comfortable, either seated, lying, standing. These are positions that the Buddha used as part of his meditation. And then after the chanting, I'll come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusana Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังภาควันหังอาภิวาเทมิ สวากขาโตมหาเควตาธัมโมดามังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเควาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to gradually understand the path to enlightenment. In this group learning program, we use this book, the first book of our book series, as the foundational text, where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter, helping students to understand the path to enlightenment. I just recently restarted this program, and what I'm doing is a 3-part series, helping people get an understanding of the entire path to enlightenment. And in about 3 weeks from now, I'm going to start from chapter 1 in the book, and I'm going to go chapter by chapter. But today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing the moral conduct section of the Eightfold Path. This is part 2 of three-part series of our Eightfold Path. Last week, I shared the wisdom section. This week, I'm sharing the moral conduct. And then next week, I'm going to be sharing the mental discipline. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. If you had a speaker system and you were trying to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers, you would kind of tweak these 8 individual dials to be able to try to get a better quality sound out of the speakers. Well, your mind is the same way. It's these 8 individual factors that the Buddha discovered that if you dial these in really closely within your life, you'll experience more and more qualities of the enlightened mental state, where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful, that you no longer experience any discontent feelings. So last week I shared this wisdom section, which is the foundation, and now we're going to be moving into this moral conduct section. So the wisdom section back here is where I was sharing teachings on the Four Noble Truths. We talked about right view, where I helped you guys to understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination, and the path forward. The Buddha helps you to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. The anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but you can see through the Buddhist teachings in a way that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. That's why you can actually eliminate them. What's causing these feelings is something called craving, desire, attachment. The mind is longing, yearning. It's chasing after the objects of its affection, wanting things to be a certain way, expecting things to be a certain way. The mind's craving permanence. In the unenlightened state, the mind doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence. So the mind craves and craves and craves. It's like a unquenchable thirst that the mind thinks if I can just get what I want, everything will be wonderful. And if the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And because you live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing, you can't experience getting what you want all the time. So if you had like a car and it was a brand new car and you drove it to the store and you came out and there's a scratch on your car, well, it's not the scratch that's causing your anger, and it's not the person who scratched the car. It's the mind craving permanence. The mind's wanting this car to look permanently beautiful when it's not possible. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. If the mind's craving permanence and it's in an impermanent world, when you're experiencing this impermanence, this change, the mind doesn't like it. And that's why it experiences the discontent feelings. So if you get really happy when it's sunny outside, that means when it rains, you'll get sad or frustrated because you based your happiness on the sun, and the sun is not permanent. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll get sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's all that's happened. It went from sun to rain. It went from this balance to this balance. But the mind's with its craving for permanence, it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. So the Four Noble Truths, establishing right view, is to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because when you have wrong view, what you'll tend to do is you'll push people away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed people away out of your life, thinking that this was going to solve the problem, like friends or family. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem because you still get angry, you still get frustrated. If they were the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the next thing you'll do is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards them through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And as long as the mind is doing that, you're going to damage your relationships. You can't live harmoniously with all beings. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear them into doing things your way. Or you might put your expectations on people and try to pressure them or control them to do things your way. So it's only a matter of time before you run across somebody who doesn't do things your way. But the mind can only be happy when people do it my way. And then the mind dislikes it when people do it another way. And that's where the anger, bitterness, and harshness and hostility comes out. So as long as an individual is pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting your expectations on people, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. So the Buddha is teaching you that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So that way you can start transforming this. If you thought other people were causing you to be angry and frustrated, you'll just continue to go around the world thinking that it's other people causing these feelings in your own mind. But you need to be able to see this in your own life. That's why last week when I taught this, I helped people to be able to independently verify this by looking at something in your own life. Like look at a recent situation when you've been angry or sad or frustrated. You maybe been yesterday or last week or last month. You can look at that situation and see that it was your own mind craving, longing, yearning. Maybe at the time you were trying to blame somebody else. But look at that situation with these fresh eyes. What was it that you were wanting? What was it that you were expecting? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because your mind didn't get what it wanted or expected, it experienced anger, sadness, and frustration. So if someone has wrong view, they're going to end up blaming other people for the feelings that they're experiencing. And you'll just never experience anything different. You'll just continue to go around the world blaming other people for the feelings that you're experiencing. But when you have right view, you can see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And now you can build on top of that. And now you can work to completely eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing these feelings. I also taught right intention. This is the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. This is where you're learning with the intention of renunciation that you need to be willing to let go of your false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions, and false views, and your unwholesomeness. If you were to continue to hold on to your false beliefs, false opinions, and false views, that means you're never going to take in wisdom to be able to see the truth about the world. If you're currently experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, all these other feelings, then that means there's certain things about the world that you just don't understand right now. That's the mind that it's not awake. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, it's to cultivate wisdom about the natural laws and to be able to train your mind to get to the point where it no longer experiences discontent feelings. So there's certain things about the world that the unenlightened mind just doesn't understand. One of the first false beliefs that an individual needs to be willing to eliminate is the belief that other people are causing you to be angry, frustrated, and sad, and all these other feelings. But the way the teachings of the Buddha work is you don't bring in new beliefs in order to get rid of your old beliefs. You're actually bringing in wisdom. You're actually independently verifying his teachings to be able to see the truth in his teachings. And when you see that wisdom conflicts with things that you've believed your entire life, you need to be willing to let those things go and to let go of your unwholesomeness. There's a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct that an individual is practicing in the unenlightened state. You might be bitter and harsh and hostile with your parents or your siblings or your life partner or your children or other people around you. You need to be able to see that that's actually coming from your own mind. It's not the other person that's causing that. So the individual needs to cultivate the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, which is to have active goodwill towards all beings, where you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, and you practice harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because anytime you cause harm, harm is just going to come back to you. Just like nobody can cause you to be angry or sad or frustrated, you can't cause other people to be angry or sad or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings either. So if people are blaming you for their feelings, it's not you that's causing those feelings. You can't cause someone to be discontent, but you can cause them harm. Causing someone harm is to cause harm to their physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation. If you cause someone harm, they're going to want to harm you back. That's the natural law of karma. So the Buddha is teaching you how to not cause harm to others. And once you build this right view and right intention as part of the Eightfold Path, then you can move into this moral conduct section, because you realize that bitterness and harshness and hostility in the mind, it's coming from your own mind. It's coming from craving, desire, attachment. And it's very unwise to go out into the world and be bitter and harsh and hostile, because if you put that out, that's what's going to come back to you. So the Buddha teaches you right speech, right action, and right livelihood as a way to improve your moral conduct. One of the ways you might think about this is, rather than right speech, you might think about it like wise speech, wise action, and wise livelihood. Because what he's doing is part of the Eightfold Path is he's teaching you what's called the natural law of karma. You might have heard this referred to as karma. This is the Sanskrit version of this word, where the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So we use the word karma, which is the Pali word. If this translated to just one English word, I would use it because it'd be easier for everybody. What this means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. Whenever you make decisions, either wisely or unwisely, you're going to experience either wholesome karma or wholesome results, or unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. It's kind of like if you were walking down this beach and you had wind blowing in your face because you were kicking up the sand, and now there's the sand blowing back in your face. This is your karma. This is the results of your decisions. You're making the decision to kick up the sand, and now it's blowing back in your face. And one of the beauties about understanding the natural law of karma, that it's not punishments and rewards. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about who's at fault or who's to blame. It's literally a sequence of events. The powerful thing about this is that if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care for and you would rather that it doesn't occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But typically what people think when they experience unwholesome results in their life is they think it's good luck or bad luck, or they'll say it's destiny or fate, or they'll say it's God or some entity called the universe, or they'll blame it on other people. As long as you do this, you're not able to cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and experience different results. So if I'm walking down the beach and I'm kicking up sand and it's blowing back in my face, and I'm like, wow, this is really bad luck. I can't do anything about this. Or, oh, this is my destiny. This is my fate. That sand is blowing back in my face. Or, oh, God or the entity called the universe is controlling this. They're the ones who are doing this to me. Or, oh, it's other people who are doing this. As long as you think that way, you're stuck. You can't change anything. But when you understand that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. So what the Buddha is teaching you as part of this section of the Eightfold Path, where you're learning about right speech, right action, and right livelihood, he's teaching you the cause and effect of your moral conduct. That when you make wise decisions about your moral conduct, you will experience wholesome karma or wholesome results. And when you make unwise decisions, you will experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. So these aren't rules or commandments that the Buddha is teaching you, because I'm going to show you how to independently verify this. Just like with everything else that I teach, the Buddha helps you to be able to independently verify his teachings. So this is what he teaches about right speech. He says, "In what, monks, is right speech? Refraining from lying, refraining from slander, refraining from harsh speech, refraining from frivolous speech. This is called right speech." So here he's giving you 4 things that would be wise for you to be able to practice, where you eliminate lying, where you're deliberately telling a lie. Because when you tell lies, people are going to discover those lies. And now when they discover those lies, they're going to see you as being undependable, unreliable, untrustworthy. And now when you're at work and you're doing a lot of lying and people are discovering your lies, your boss doesn't want to staff you on that really interesting project that could improve your career. So now your career kind of flattens out. This is the results of your decisions. At the very least, if you've done a lot of lying, you know that when we were kids, we used to do a lot of lying. Our mind had to figure all this out. What did I tell mom? What did I tell dad? What did I tell brothers and sisters? Your mind's kind of obsessively trying to figure this out. And how can you get to a peaceful and joyful mind and a peaceful and joyful life if your mind is obsessively trying to figure out what you said from one person to the other? So the Buddha teaches you that it's unwise to lie. And if you choose to just tell the truth all the time, you'll see that it produces wholesome results for you. Then the Buddha teaches you to eliminate slander. This is where you're trying to damage somebody else's reputation, like gossip or slander. The mind in this case is trying to look good in front of other people. And it thinks if I destroy other people's reputation, it'll make me look good. It's kind of like going into a dark room and everybody's got a candle. And the mind thinks, if I put out everybody else's candle, my candle will shine brighter, right? But no, we're in a dark room. We need everybody's candle to be shining bright. So the Buddha teaches you that it's unwise to gossip and slander where you're damaging someone else's reputation. At the height of this, if you gossip and slander people, the unwholesome karma is that people are going to want to kill you. And there's been people that have been murdered because they were gossiping and slandering. The Buddha's teachings aren't explaining to you the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows rules and commandments, the world's going to experience a better existence. The Buddha's teaching you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, now you can navigate the world more peacefully. So at the height of this, people can get beat up and even murdered, right? But at the very least, if you go around gossiping and slandering people, people are going to gossip and slander about you, because you get these people used to gossiping and slandering, and then your back's turned and you're over here doing something else, and they're gossiping and slandering about you, right? Because they got used to gossiping and slandering, and now you're just the next target, right? So if you're interested in people not gossiping and slandering about you, you're going to need to make sure that you don't gossip and slander about other people. Then the Buddha teaches you to refrain from harsh speech. Harsh speech is your tone, your tempo, and your word choice. If you have harsh speech, that's because there's a craving, there's a desire, there's longing, yearning that the mind has, wanting things to be a certain way. And the mind thinks if I'm harsh and hostile and bitter, it'll scare this person into doing things my way, because the mind wants things to be a certain way. So your parents, your siblings, your life partner, your children, people like this, you'll find that you have harsh speech in these relationships where you have really close relationships because you have a lot of craving. You really want and expect that person to do things a certain way. But you're going to need to transform this, where you pay attention to your tone, your tempo, and your word choice, getting to the point where you're speaking gentle. And many of you speak more than one language. So you're going to need to look at the different languages that you speak, and you're going to need to learn how to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in the way that you talk, so you can be gentle. In Thai, we have great words that we use when we speak Thai. For those of you guys that know anything about Thai, we have like ka and kap and na kap and all these other words that shows the person we're being gentle and warm and loving with this person. And I'm sure your languages has that too. Like English, we can use yes, sir, yes, ma'am, right? We can use thank you and please and things like this, which oftentimes those words have dropped off out of people's vocabulary, but you can bring those back and you can use those with people so they know that you're being polite and warm and friendly and respectful to them. Then there's refraining from frivolous speech. I'll explain to you what frivolous speech is. This is like idle chatter or unbeneficial, unpurposeful speech. Have you ever been around somebody, or have you ever been this person where it's just like yada, 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 yada. Yada, yada, yada. It's like, whoa, like this person, they're not really having a discussion here. It's not really a conversation. They're like broadcasting to you. Maybe 20, 30 minutes. They're just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And you're like, oh my gosh, what is this person talking about? Right? So if you do that, where you're just constantly talking and you're not actually having discussions with people, people are just going to tune you out. They're going to be uninterested in talking with you. And that's coming from craving. That's the mind longing, yearning, and craving to talk, where you can get to the point where your mind doesn't do that, where your mind understands that you need to leave space for other people to talk. So this is the top part of right speech, that you would like to develop this, because this is going to help reduce and eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, where your mind's longing, yearning in conversations. Because the reason why people lie is because they want something, and they think if they tell the truth, they're not going to get what they want. So we lie in order to be able to get what you want. So the Buddha is teaching you how to eliminate that craving, desire, attachment. The cause of discontentment is through your speech. But then he goes deeper into what's called the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. This is a deeper level teaching that integrates into the Eightfold Path. This is where you speak at the proper time, what you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. The speaking at the proper time is to make sure you're not interrupting people. Because if you jump in and you're interrupting people, there's a craving there. Your mind's longing, yearning, and you can't wait your turn. You're just jumping in. And you don't like it when people interrupt you. So if you were to go around interrupting others, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. The other part of speaking the proper time is making sure it's your mind is the proper time to talk. If you're angry and frustrated, agitated, or annoyed, it's not the proper time to talk. And you can see when you've done that, it's produced unwholesome results for you. You've had broken relationships and you've lost friends based on the harshness and the hostility and the bitterness. If your mind is angry and frustrated, it's not the proper time to talk. The only thing that's going to come out is anger and hostility. So it's better not to have that conversation. Wait till your mind calms down. The other part of speaking at the proper time is to make sure the other person's mind is calm and able to speak. Because if someone else is angry and bitter and hostile and harsh, you're not going to be able to have a very helpful conversation. So it's better to wait for the proper time to speak. Then we already talked about speaking the truth. We talked about it up here. We also talked about speaking gently. We talked about it over here, paying attention to your tone, tempo, and word choice. And we also talked about speaking beneficially. Speaking beneficially is about the method of how you speak. You would like to be clear and concise in the way that you speak. Whereas if you just are unpurposeful, unbeneficial, and you're just rambling chit-chat all over the place, and you don't really have a purpose for why you're speaking, people are eventually going to tune you out. So speaking beneficially is more about the method in how you actually speak as opposed to the topic that you're speaking about. Then you would like to wrap all of this in a mind of loving kindness. Loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. If you speak with the opposite of this, you're going to be speaking with inner hate. And if you speak with inner hate, it's going to produce unwholesome results or unwholesome karma for you. But if you can speak with loving kindness, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, this is going to produce more and more wholesome results for you. So here, this is the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. This is a deeper teaching that you would like to be practicing on an ongoing basis. Now, the teachings of the Buddha, they're not based in belief. You need to independently verify this. I just shared with you intellectually what these 5 factors of well-spoken speech are so that you can investigate and examine the teachings, but now you need to move into reflection. Look at these 5 factors and think about a recent conversation that didn't go well for you. Look at these 5 factors. You can see that you and or the other person wasn't practicing these 5 factors because these are natural laws. They affect you whether you're aware of them or not. So ask yourself, were you speaking at the proper time? Were you speaking the truth? Were you speaking gently? Were you speaking beneficially? And were you speaking with a mind of loving kindness? If the conversation didn't go well, that's because you and or the other person wasn't using these. But you can also independently verify this in another method. Look at conversations that have gone well, because you've been in many conversations that have gone well. And remember, these are natural laws. They're affecting you whether you're aware of them or not. So when you're practicing these, all 5 factors, you can see that your conversations go really well. This is how you can actually independently verify this. So there's no belief here. What you'd like to do is dial this into your life closer and closer and closer. And the more that you practice this way, you're going to see your relationships really improve. You'll find it the hardest to talk to people in this way that you're really close to. Your parents, siblings, life partner, children, people like this. But you need to work at that and train your mind more and more to be able to speak this way. You can't just snap your fingers and instantly implement this. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress to gradually get to the point where you're able to practice this more and more closely. And that's what's going to produce wholesome results in your life. What we're talking about here is getting to a point where you've established barami. This is a Thai word, barami. The word barami means the one who people listen to. Here in Thailand, if you live in a village, there's usually village elders that people know are very successful in life. And if you need any help, you can go to the village elders and ask for help. When we talk about being successful in life, I'm not talking about financially successful. Anybody can go make money. When I talk about success, I mean that they're successful because they have harmonious relationships. People know that these people speak very wisely and they have lots of harmonious relationships in their life. That's what it means to be successful, because anybody can go out and make money, but not everybody can have harmonious relationships unless they have enough wisdom to know how to do that. So someone in Thailand, if you're living in a village, they'll know who the village elders are. And these people are very wise. And if you need help, you go talk to them. That's because they're practicing the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. And people know that these individuals are very wise and they don't cause harm in the way that they speak to other people. So they have what's called barami, the one who people listen to. So if you're interested in having barami, to be the one who people listen to, both personally and professionally in your life, you're going to need to establish barami, where you are the one who people listen to. But it's not going to be 1 week or 1 month, right? You're going to need to practice these teachings consistently on a long-term basis, so more and more your friends and family and coworkers can see that you're speaking wisely and you don't cause harm. They don't need to know these 5 factors. They will just know from the results of the way that you talk, because it's the natural laws. When you speak this way, people will just know that, wow, this person's so kind and they're warm and they're gentle. They'll be able to see it through the way that you're speaking. So if you would like to establish barami, you're going to need to practice this right speech. Now, while we call this right speech, that was what they referred to it as during the lifetime of the Buddha. We might actually think about it as right communication, because we have a lot more than just speech. During the lifetime of the Buddha, it was only speech. But nowadays, we have text messages, social media, emails, voicemails, all kinds of ways to communicate. So, for example, if you're really angry and frustrated and you go over to your keyboard and you're pounding on your keyboard to send out an email, that's not the proper time to communicate. You'd probably hit save instead of send. Because when you hit send, it's going to go out into the world. Someone's going to read that bitterness and hostility, and it's going to come right back to you, right? So you'd like to wait to the proper time to communicate, even if it's sending an email or something like that. Here's another example. Let's just say you went to a job interview and you were practicing right speech. You were speaking in a way that was very wonderful, using all of these teachings from the Buddha. And now those people feel really great about you, and they're going to hire you, and they're going to give you a great job. But now they go look at your social media and they see bitterness and harshness and hostility. You're probably not going to get the job. So you would like all your communication, whether it's text messages, emails, social media, everything to be using the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. And that's what's going to produce the wholesome Dhamma, or the wholesome results for you. As you're learning this, it's going to take time for you to gradually bring your practice up so that you're actually practicing this on an ongoing basis. One of the things that I used to do is I used to have this on my phone, and I would review it in the morning, just kind of refreshing my mind for about a minute or two. And then I'd go out in my day and have all my meetings and my conversations. And then at lunchtime, I would actually look at it again, and I would look to see, how did I do during the day? And I'd be like, oh boy, this morning I was interrupting that guy a lot. I should probably stop doing that. So I would look at the things that I did well and the things that I was doing unwell. And then I would improve for the afternoon. And now in the evening, I might look at those things again to be able to see what did I do well and what I didn't do well. And slowly but surely, I was able to dial this in closer and closer. But as you're working on this, you might need to be able to use this, that if you can speak polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, this is going to really help you. Because when you're on the phone with your mom and you feel the anger coming up, you're not going to be able to say, hey, mom, hold on a second. I'm really frustrated here, and I've got to get this book that they had in Thailand, and this person gave me this book, and I've been reading it, and I got to find these 5 factors of well-spoken speech. Hold on a second, mom. I'm really getting angry here. I know there's something I need to learn in this book, right? You're not going to be able to do that. So if you're in a conversation where you can't remember the 5 factors of well-spoken speech as you're learning them, if you can remember to speak polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, that'll really help you. But you need to be able to definitely understand the 5 factors of well-spoken speech in order to be able to bring your speech up to what the Buddha is talking about, which is actually going to lead to your enlightenment. But in the meantime, you can use this as you're making your way towards the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, speaking polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. And in this book, I have detailed teachings on all of this that I'm describing to you guys. You can get this book by downloading it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. Or if your country has access to Amazon, you can order it from there. Because this book's going to really help you to be able to see what it is that you would like to learn and practice to be able to train your mind. So do you guys have any questions on right speech or right communication? Anything you'd like to ask here? Or those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Hello there, Mr. Zach. I see you're online. This is our youngest member of our community, I think. Hello, Mr. Zach. I think he's 7 or 8 years old. He's in the Philippines. Hello, sir. Nice to see you online today. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. So I'm going to move to the next one, which is right action. This is where the Buddha is teaching you that things with the body, that if you cause harm with your bodily actions, this will actually produce harm in the world, and this harm is going to come back to you. So the Buddha says, and what, monks, is right action? Refraining from taking life, refraining from taking what is not given, refraining from sexual misconduct. This is called right action. So the Buddha is giving you 3 things here that would cause harm with your bodily actions. He's not giving you an exhaustive list. He's just giving you 3 really big, impactful ones. You can figure out all the others. Notice he doesn't say it would be unwise to walk up to someone and punch them in the face. But if we understand the natural law of karma, we understand that that's unwise because we're causing harm through our bodily actions. And now when we punch that person in the face, they're probably going to punch us back, or they're going to pull out a knife or a gun, or their friends or family are going to attack us. So this is the results of our decisions. The karma is that we're going to experience this harm because we're putting out harm. So the Buddha is teaching you 3 impactful ones here, but he's not giving you an exhaustive list. Notice he doesn't say, it would be unwise to drag your suitcase through the aisle of a plane where you're running over people's feet and you're bumping into their knees, because planes didn't even exist during the lifetime of the Buddha. So therefore, he didn't share those things. But if you understand right action, that you're not interested in causing harm through your bodily actions, you can figure all these out. When we get to the 5 precepts, I'm going to be going into a lot more detail on this. 5 precepts is chapter 7 of our book. So when we get to that in about 2 months from now, I'm going to actually be teaching this in a lot more detail, because this is just the Buddha pointing to the 5 precepts. And in there, he gives you a lot more detail. Like, for example, here, refraining from sexual misconduct. Well, what's sexual misconduct? Who knows what that is? Well, the Buddha will help you to be able to understand what that is in the 5 precepts. He talks about things like having sex with minors, raping people, having sex without their consent. He's talking about having sex outside of relationships that you're currently committed to and things of that nature. It's important to understand that he doesn't talk about same-gender relationships as part of sexual misconduct. This is how wise he was. 2,500 years ago, he understood that same-gender relationships doesn't actually lead to harm. If you understand the universal truth of impermanence, then you understand that it's not possible for everybody to have sex with the opposite gender. If everybody was having sex with the opposite gender, that would be permanence. And we live in an impermanent world. Ever since the beginning of humanity, there's been people who have sex with the same gender, and there's been people who have sex with the opposite gender. So if you currently have sex with someone in the same gender as you or the opposite gender, you're not causing any harm if you're practicing being in a loyal, loving, committed relationship. We're going to talk about this in more detail when we get to the 5 precepts, but I like to give people a heads up that if you're someone who has same-gender relationships, that you're not committing sexual misconduct. The Buddha was aware of this during his lifetime, but he never talked about it as part of sexual misconduct because he understood 2 loyal, loving, consenting adults choosing to have sex, there's no harm there. And if you understand the universal truth of impermanence, you can understand that there's never been a time in human history where everybody had sex with the opposite gender. So we're going to talk about this more when we get to it. So do you guys have any question on right action and causing harm with the body and how this would be unwise? No questions? Okay. So now the last one for this evening. This is called Right Livelihood. Here's what the Buddha says. He says, "In what, monks, is right livelihood? Here, monks, the noble disciple, having given up wrong livelihood, keeps himself by right livelihood." So here he's just pointing to his other teachings. He has other teachings that are more detailed about right livelihood. First, what a livelihood is how you choose to sustain your life. If you choose to sustain your life off of causing harm to others, harm is going to come back to you. So the Buddha gives what is called 2 folds of purification as part of right livelihood. What I'm going to teach you today is called the first fold of purification, or the first level of purification. So this first part, he's talking about 5 livelihoods that would lead to harm if you actually did any of these things. If you sold weapons, if you had business in living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness, or poisons, this is actually going to cause harm to others. So harm is going to come back to you. So the Buddha teaches that it would be unwise to actually do these kinds of things. Now remember, the teachings of the Buddha are not based in belief, that you can take these and independently verify them. I'm going to take this one here of substances that cause heedlessness and help you to be able to understand what this actually is and how to independently verify it. So let's just say that I was on the street corner and I was selling substances that cause heedlessness, like crystal methamphetamine or heroin or cocaine, and I was selling this into the community. If I was selling this into the community, I'm causing harm in the community. And now those people are going out, they're getting addicted to the substances that I'm selling. Maybe they're stealing and robbing. Maybe they're selling their body for sex in order to bring me money. Well, now standing on the street corner, I can very easily get beat up, I can get murdered, I can get robbed, I can get arrested, I can get addicted to these substances. These are all the unwholesome results that I can experience as a result of choosing to cause harm in the community. These are coming from my decisions. So you can see that it's unwise to do these kinds of things. So you can do that with each one of these to independently verify it. But it's important to be able to understand that this natural law of karma is functioning at a much higher level than the human laws. Most places in the world, it's illegal to stand on the street corner and sell things like crystal methamphetamine and heroin and cocaine into the community. Some places it's not illegal to do that. But a lot of places it's legal to do things like work in a liquor store or work in a bar or something like this. Well, if you understand the natural law of karma, you're actually functioning at a much higher level than the human laws. Because the human laws, the government might say, hey, you can go work in that liquor store. We're not going to arrest you for that. You can go be a cashier over there. But if you understood the natural law of karma, you could realize that this could be an unwise choice for you. Because if you're working at a liquor store, these are the places that people usually get robbed. Sometimes people get murdered, get beat up. And at the very least, you have intoxicated clientele that are coming in that you're having to deal with from time to time. So how could you ever get to a peaceful and joyful mind and a peaceful and joyful life if you're constantly having to deal with these kinds of things going on in your day-to-day life? So this natural law of karma is functioning at a much higher level than the human laws. So you need to be able to look beyond the human laws. So you can actually look at these 5 livelihoods and determine whether or not you're actually causing harm in the way that you're actually conducting your livelihood. Then the Buddha teaches you how to actually perform your livelihood so that you can get to a point where you're experiencing nothing but success in your livelihood. If you're scheming, flattering, hinting, belittling, or pursuing gain with gain, you're not actually going to have success in your livelihood. So the Buddha teaches you that it would be unwise to do these things. So scheming is like, say that I was the mayor of a town. I'm not causing any harm. I'm not doing business in weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness or poisons. So I'm just the mayor of this town. But if I was scheming, or I was corrupt, and people find out about this, which they will, 10 years, 15 years into my career, now when they find out, they're not going to be interested in reelecting me. So the Buddha is teaching you how to have a very successful career, to not have any scheming or corruption within your career. Then the Buddha teaches you to eliminate flattery. What flattery is where you give insincere comments just to try to get people to buy things from you. So let's just say you walk into a store and someone's like, oh, wow, that's a really beautiful color of shirt that you have on. It really brings out the colors of your eyes, and the shape of your face looks so beautiful. I have these really nice earrings over here that'll look really well with that shirt. Would you like to come take a look at them? This is like flattering someone just to try to get them to buy things from you. And if you've ever been in that situation, you might have felt like, ugh, I don't even want to go into the store. It just feels awkward and strange to be in that situation. You might not have enjoyed being in that situation. So the Buddha teaches you that it would be unwise to just flatter people to be able to buy things. And that's going to produce unwholesome results for you in your day-to-day life. Then the Buddha teaches you to eliminate hinting. Hinting is like not being clear and concise in the way that you deliver your work products. So for example, let's just say all of us was on a project team and we needed to go brief the boss about a particular project. Well, now when we go into the boss's office, we would like to be clear and concise in our communication. That's going to produce the best results for us in our profession. And then the Buddha teaches you to eliminate belittling. Belittling is where you're being degrading or diminishing to your customers, your coworkers, your business partners, people like this, maybe even your competition. Sometimes people think the way to get ahead in business is to belittle and degrade their competition. But this isn't going to produce wholesome results for you, because when you're belittling and degrading and diminishing your customers, your coworkers, your business partners in your competition, it doesn't look good for you. And now people are going to be disinterested in doing business with you. So if you don't have anything good to say, just don't say anything at all, right? So if somebody asks you about your competition and maybe you think that they're not doing as good a job as you don't need to say that. You can just say, I'm not quite sure 100% of what they do there, but this is what I can do for you. Here's how I will take care of you. Here's the product or service that I can deliver for you. And then you just focus on what you can do rather than what your competition can't do. Then the Buddha teaches you to eliminate pursuing gain with gain. This is where you would just take a job for money that you're not really interested in the product or service. You're just doing it for money. If you've ever had that kind of job before, then you know that initially you were really excited because you were getting all this money. But then over time, that craving burned out and the money wasn't as important to you anymore. And you probably wanted even more money. And now you felt like you were dragging yourself to work each day, that you were just showing up for the paycheck. That's all you really cared about. If you have that kind of job, you're not going to be able to get to a peaceful and joyful mind and a peaceful and joyful life. So the Buddha teaches you to be able to have a livelihood that isn't based on just money, and that's all you care, and that's all you want is the money. You need to have something that you have ambition, enthusiasm, and motivation and encouragement to be able to go do this thing every single day, that you have a real purpose behind what it is that you do, and you thoroughly enjoy it. Here in Thailand, we have people that thoroughly enjoy the work that they do. Not everybody, of course, but some people, a large majority of the people, they thoroughly enjoy the work that they do each day. If you come here, you'll see that there's maybe a person on the street corner selling mango and sticky rice. And maybe this person went out this morning and they picked their mangoes out of their mango grove and they brushed them off and cleaned them off, and they brought them to the market with their sticky rice. And now they're standing there with a big smile on their face, slicing their mangoes and putting it on top of their sticky rice and pouring this coconut milk over top of their mangoes. And they have a huge smile on their face. They can't imagine doing anything else but serving you that mango and sticky rice. And they're just collecting a little bit of money in order to be able to sustain their life. Well, they enjoy this work so much that they would do it even if they didn't get paid for it. That's how much they enjoy it. So what you would like to be able to do is find your mango and sticky rice. What is your mango and sticky rice? What is it that's going to motivate you each day to do this work to the point where it doesn't even feel like work? You don't need to drag yourself to work every day. If that's what you're doing right now, you're in the wrong livelihood, and you're going to need to find a different situation, that you're going to need to find maybe a different company or a different career or something like this, because you'll never get to peace and joy if you just keep dragging yourself to work every single day. So you would like to get to the point where whatever you're doing, you enjoy it so thoroughly that even if you didn't get paid for it, you would still do it. That's how much you enjoy it. That you have enthusiasm, ambition, and motivation each day to go do this thing, whatever you're doing. The paycheck is almost like a bonus, right? So you need to find your mango and sticky rice. So the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate scheming, flattering, hinting, belittling, and pursuing gain with gain. And this is what's going to help you to have lots of success in your career, where you get to the point where you're experiencing ambition, enthusiasm, and motivation in your day-to-day work. As I mentioned, this is the first fold of purification. There's actually teachings beyond this that is like a second level or a second fold of purification to be able to help you understand. This is in volume 12, chapter 14. So if you're in a job right now that you particularly don't care for, or if you're in between jobs and you're looking for a new job, you might decide to go look at volume 12, chapter 14. That's where you're going to see the exhaustive teachings from the Buddha that's going to help you to be able to understand how to make your move to a livelihood that you can have enthusiasm, ambition, and motivation in. So this is Right Livelihood. So let me pause here and see what questions you guys might have about Right Livelihood. Remember, you can put those into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. So just to summarize this for us, there's right speech, which is not causing harm through your verbal conduct, making sure that all your communication, whether it's verbal, text, chat, post on social media, email, all of this should be harmless, using the right speech, where you've eliminated lying, slander, harsh speech, and frivolous speech. But then in more detail, that you're practicing the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, that you speaking at the proper time, what you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. Understanding that the people that are closest to you, you'll find it to be the most challenging. Next week, I'm going to teach you the mental discipline section, which is going to help you to be able to implement the moral conduct. Then there's the right action. This is not causing harm through your bodily actions. All your bodily actions should be harmless, that you're not causing harm through any of your bodily actions. And then you'd like to practice right livelihood, where you're making a decision to sustain your life in a way that's harmless, where you're not having business in weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness, or poisons. And then also, you're not scheming, flattering, hinting, belittling, or pursuing gain with gain. As long as you're doing these kinds of things, it would cause harm, and harm's going to come back to you. So you'd like to clean any of those things up, and more you'll be able to see the beneficial results or the wholesome Kamma as a result of making wiser and wiser decisions. So this is just a summary of what it is that I shared with you today. Next week, I'm going to be in the mental discipline section. I'm going to help you to understand right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This is actually what's going to help you to implement the moral conduct. But you wouldn't be able to do either of these without the wisdom section. So that's why we started with that first. That's the foundation. That's why it's on the bottom. And now we're building on top of this, so that by the end of this 3-part series, you'll have a real nice overview of what the teachings of the Buddha are. And then eventually, I'm going to be starting with chapter 1 about 3 weeks from now, where I'm going to be going chapter by chapter in the book. So if you haven't gotten one of these yet, you might decide to download it or go print it, or buy it on Amazon, or you can get one here at the temple as well. So I don't see any questions here from you guys. This is a very straightforward teaching, but you're going to need to look at this closely and dial it in closer and closer in your day-to-day life. And remember, you're not interested in believing any of this stuff. You need to be able to independently verify the natural law of Kamma so you can see the truth for yourself. So next week, we're going to be learning the mental discipline section. I'm going to walk you through that in a way that you can understand it. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Take care and be well. Perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.